Toby Fox has done it again and created another beautiful narrative masterpiece. He can't keep getting away with it! But whether they intended to or not, Deltarune Chapter 5 has numerous areas where political parallels can be drawn between many of the different story beats and characters throughout the game. Themes ranging from collectivism and community all the way to things like the manosphere that we deal with today. And that's what makes this chapter so beautiful. All these different layers and meanings to it that Toby did or maybe even didn't intend, but it could be a very easy connection to make. So let's talk about the beauty that is Deltarune Chapter 5 and break down the political parallels we see throughout the chapter. The entire setup for Deltarune Chapter 5 is that the festival is today, and as we begin this chapter, we see Chris crawling in through the window in some green zombified gremlin form, crawling back to us, the heart, or the player, the soul, whichever you would like to call it, and reinserting us, the player, back into their body. I mean, this alone has a lot of commentary on bodily autonomy that we could probably talk about, but I'll save that one for another video. But going back to the festival, the big thing that I want to talk about this chapter is how the festival is great commentary on community and collectivism. So to get to this part, we meet up with Susie in the Dark World, and then even later meet up with Noelle. And we are met with this beautiful theme. Festival or carnival in most media is the quintessential representation of collectivism within a community. Hometown has many institutions like the church and the school and its local government to be able to support and facilitate such a celebration as well. The fact that they even have the tradition of the festival every year, followed by the fact that they're even able to facilitate such an amazing celebration within their community, just shows how strong and tight-knit the community really is, both in its bonds of friends and family, but also in its infrastructure and the way that they can afford things. And celebrations like these are perfect examples of how to make friends and connect with others within your own community to further strengthen those bonds. It's kind of an example of a lost art that at least we as Americans have kind of lost the plot on a little bit. I mean, at least talking from my own experience, carnivals compared to like when I was a kid versus like now have become these kind of commercialized disasters. And I know this now because I live in an area that is better facilitating of community organizing, just like that we see in Deltarune Chapter 5. I mean, every single thing that you do in carnivals nowadays is that you have to go drive out to somewhere or drive into a mall parking lot. And while you can technically get in for $5, everything within the festival costs money. And you have to pay for every single time that you ride a ride that has a safety rating of a Florida apartment complex built on the literal beaches and coast. And by the time that you do all the attractions and the games and the rides and pay for the food and you get all little Timmy his big stuffed prize because you had to play ring toss 100 times just to hit the actual ring and thing, you basically end up paying the admission price of what it costs to go to Walt Disney World. And don't even get me started on the price of that place. All of this being said, I just want you to think about the last time that you went to a carnival or fair or festival and think about how commercialized that event has become. Because I would wager that most of you in the comments, go ahead and like and subscribe by the way, would have a very similar experience to mine. And Deltarune Chapter 5 is showing us how we can maybe refine these roots in building communities that facilitate such celebrations. Now I know Hometown is probably based off of some really small northeastern town in like Maine or something like that, but the examples of making walkable communities is very palpable, creating and fostering communities that are welcome and accessible to all. And unfortunately in America, the only places that are really like that are these big metropolises. But there is hope in ways that you can get active in improving your own communities and getting involved in the development of brand new communities in the future. The first and most obvious thing is that communities should not be organized around cars, or at least not completely centralized around them. Obviously, America is a very large and car-centric country, and it's going to take a lot of work and effort to get to a point where our communities aren't entirely based upon that. But these things called micro-cities are definitely a step in the right direction. While to get to those micro-cities, you definitely still have to drive. These micro-cities are usually a good mix of some apartment complexes, grocery stores, local stores as well, maybe even some chains, and some parks as well. You may still have to commute to work from your little micro-city, and if you're eliminating any driving outside of commuting to work, that's definitely a step in the right direction. We also need to establish car-free streets throughout these micro-cities as well. Basically, imagine a mall, but without the roof on top of it. And some other things like creating dedicated bike lanes and bike protection laws, and investing in improving your local public transportation, whether it's something as robust as a metro system or it's just the bus system around. But the biggest thing is also fighting zoning zoning laws within the United States. And I mean, I don't think Hometown really has zoning laws if we look at the city. I mean, there's a couple of apartment complexes down the road, but really it seems like everything is quite intertwined and built within itself and built on top of itself. There's a restaurant, there's a house, there's an apartment complex, there's an alleyway, there's the lake right next to that. And we should have more of that. Things shouldn't be divided and spread out the way that they are currently in America. But I offer all of these solutions to you because I just love the way Deltarune Chapter 5 portrays all of this, and there are just answers and ways for you to improve your local community and to have a better future for yourself and maybe even your kids or kids. But speaking of the future, the rest of this chapter is quite the doozy. Because as beautiful and wonderful as the light world is in this Yuri scene between Susie and Noelle, Deltarune does not let us stay comfortable for too long because Susie ends up going into the flower shop, Chris rips their heart out, and then proceeds to create a dark world within that flower shop. And they ore farm a little bit on the way in. I mean, come on, this is pretty badass. But we now have to talk about something a little bit less badass and somebody who's carrying a massive weight on their shoulders. Let's talk about Asgore.
In my car right after a beer. Hey, that bomb is shaped like a deer.
So there's a ton to unpack about Asgore. But before we talk about him in the context of Deltarune, it'll be helpful to see the parallels if we look at him in the context of Undertale first. In Undertale, Asgore is the king of the underground and rules over this place in a survivalist economy / authoritarian way, killing children for the opportunity to break the barrier and free the monsters from the underground. But in the same breath of inaction, he's refusing to commit to pacifism or peace, and only letting the problem come to him. And in this lack of action, we learn that it is slowly eroding the lives of the monsters in the entire underground and loved ones around him, like ruining his relationship with Toriel and offloading the burden of responsibility and consequences regarding his actions of the barrier to Undying and Alphys. And these exact trends actually manifest in Deltarune, just in slightly different ways. What we know about Asgore before Deltarune Chapter 5 is that he was the police chief of Hometown, and at some point in his tenure he was responsible for or around for the disappearance of December, or at the very least just failed to prevent whatever happened to her. But he continued to take the guilt of the situation and became obsessed with the disappearance of December. This guilt and obsession with an action until the circumstances are just right and the evidence is overwhelming in his favor that it completely absolves him of all responsibilities just feels like a very easy parallel to draw with how he is in Undertale. Regardless, just like in Undertale, it seems his abdication of responsibility and inability to move on has led to a similar outcome in the world of Deltarune, ruining his relationship with Toriel and his relationship with his family and friends at large. I mean, Rudy's in the hospital with a deadly illness and the best the dude can do is just send him some flowers? Not to mention that they have this weird skewed vision of Chris and only remember the things about Chris from when they were really young and not how they are now. And the evidence of which comes from this dark world, but more on that later. I hate to dunk on Asgore so much, but it feels like he's a great cautionary tale for many men out there in the world. Men who fall into obsession over their own insecurities, their own pride, and their own sense of justice. I mean, I just don't know how much more on the nose you can get that Asgore just sucks and shouldn't be a male role model in the slightest. But this guy, on the other hand,
It's me, Lowry.
that's a loaded question.
Hey, boys.
Okay, I'll talk about you guys now, all right? Just go on. I've held off long enough, right?
Forget it.
Okay, I think it's time that we talk about the flowers in this chapter. So as we proceed through this chapter, we meet many different characters that are representative of the flowers in Asgore's flower shop. Characters like Aqua, Seth, Yellow, Blue, Orange, Green, and...
Lowry.
Yeah, that guy.
Hey, boys.
How did you even get here anyways?
Stingus.
Oh, okay, that makes sense, I guess.
Here I come, San Francisco.
Okay. Each of these flowers can be representative of many different aspects of Asgore's life, both in how he personifies himself and how he views others within his life. As I previously alluded to, Aqua seems to be a very good stand-in for what Asgore thinks of Chris when they were younger. And then there's Seth, which I feel is very representative of Asgore's desire for more knowledge, to the point of it being an insecurity. And then it's followed by two of my favorite flowers, Yellow and Blue. More on why they're my favorites later. But More applicably, yellow is representative of Asgore's thin, one-dimensional sense of justice, and how he probably views himself for not being a successful protector of his community. And on the flip side, I'm sure it could be argued that blue is representative of his idea of who Toriel is. I mean, it's just so sad that Asgore is infatuated with this idea of Toriel instead of loving her for who she is. And it's just being willfully ignorant to any of her flaws that just comes with the part of being a partner with somebody and in their lives, which is just unrealistic and low-key problematic. Next is Orange, who's representative of his courage in a physical and metaphorical sense. While Orange can pack a good punch, just like we know Asgore can, I'm sure he thinks that he's not a very good protector and that he's all bark and no bite, and his insecurities of his fighting abilities are just completely in the toilet. And before we get to
Here I come.
let's talk about green. Now, green is a bit weird because they could be representative of many different things. Like, just the fact that they're green probably makes them somewhat representative of Asriel. But as the mic encounter in this chapter tells us, that's probably not true. We could also say that green is representative of Toriel's cooking, and maybe just his love for food. I don't know. You tell me what you think in the comments below. Regardless, green isn't really important to this video. Oh, no, I didn't mean it like that, man. I'm sorry. Shit. And before I explain the political meaning behind any of this, yes, this is still a politics video, we have to talk about this ugly mug right here.
Yes.
Flowery can be representative of many things. First and most obviously, which is what Asgore has stated, is that he's his friend from college. Probably a representation of Rudy in some senses. But Flowery could actually be an amalgamation of his idealized version of himself and Rudy, and all these different ideas of what Asgore thinks makes a perfect man.
My king.
Yes, Asgore probably thinks you're like low-key perfect, dude. You like represent somebody who isn't completely absent from any of their responsibilities or anything that's going on in their life or their family or friends or anybody.
Stingus.
Really, you gonna say that right now when I'm like gassing you up, man? What the hell's wrong with you?
It's my Girona.
Oh, yeah, that'll do it. Anyways, these flowers all together are what make up Asgore and his psyche, being representative of little aspects about himself and the people that he loves around him. Some of them being frozen in time and others being an idealized weird version of themselves, all being kept alive in a shop after the relationship that made them meaningful fell apart. So finally, let's get to the political undertones of what all of this means, which I kind of alluded to at the beginning of this section. Whether this was Toby's intention or not, he really builds a clear picture as to what happens to men in absence of power, who substitutes accountability for mission and legacy for position and the hopes of redemption. Asgore has enough guilt about this conspiracy and cold case just to keep him busy for all of these years, while everyone else around him either moves on or, even worse, enables his foolish delusions. Now, I can't help but feel that this entire story of Asgore's character is very analogous to the way that men are captured by the alt-right pipeline and manosphere within our current culture. Young and old men across America being misdirected into obsession over a time that never existed, pushing them to feel like they have no authority over their lives and can't contribute to their communities and families unless they feed into these obsessions and insecurities that they have, of which are preyed upon by those in power and political commentators for their own abuse and personal gain. I mean, again, I know it's not the exact explicit intention of Asgore, but I can't help but feel that this is like as close as you can get to a cautionary tale that shows men and male presenting individuals across the globe what not to do.
Most please.
Yeah, be more like him, but a little less annoying, please.
Goodbye.
Oh no, I made him sad. I didn't mean to. You're not annoying, okay? But what makes this even better as a cautionary tale is that there are aspects about Asgore that are positive and show that he is worthy of redemption. He just manages to turn a blind eye to all the things that makes him truly positively masculine, and a great role model to their community and to their family. Like, he's a great example as a community builder, helping set up the festival and also donate flowers to it. And even at the end of the chapter, admits to Chris that they realize the error of their ways and that they've been pushing unwanted affection onto Toriel. Unfortunately, though, we don't see the fruits of this correction and this redemption, at least not yet in our story of Deltarune, because he's taken away by the Roaring Night at the end of the chapter, before we could see any of the fruits of his redemption.
No.
What? What do you mean I'm only talking about negative things?
I'm only trying to help you.
Yes, I'm capable of talking about positive stuff. Like, come on, what would you suggest?
So, orange.
Oh.
Yes.
Guys, it's gonna get a little gay in here. know, Deltarune throughout all of its chapters makes commentary on sexuality and gender, something that I will definitely touch on in later videos. But there are 2 examples from Chapter 5 that I really want to talk about and just hammer the point home of in this video. And these examples are just so good that I think it should be the standard for how every LGBTQ+ character is represented and written in media moving forward.
Stingus.
Yeah, it's that good, dude. It's that good. So let's rewind to earlier in the chapter, before this guy was around.
I'm falling.
As I described earlier, we got this very beautiful scene of Yuri between Susie and Noelle. Their interactions, the way that they treat each other, and the way that their emotions and everything about this interaction is just so obvious that they are falling in love with each other, and it's just so beautiful. But most importantly, it's normal. These are normal, human, real emotions, real moments in any normal relationship. That's what makes this beautiful. It's given the space and the air to breathe, and it's treated so normal in the world that it's just like drinking a cup of water or having a breath of fresh air. All of these emotions are just something that everyone experiences, no matter what your gender and sexuality are. And it is just absolutely beautiful to see the way that Toby Fox writes this. But I'm not done just quite yet, because fast forwarding a little bit into the chapter,
Here I come, San Francisco.
geez, hate to be that guy. This point is driven home by the relationship between Blue and Yellow, and is exactly why they are 2 of my favorite characters within this game. These 2 characters express love for each other in multiple ways, some being hilarious and others being... But it has the normalcy and weight and gravity of a serious relationship, and that is just what's so refreshing and beautiful and charming about all of this. Featuring some of the most beautiful moments between the 2 of them, where Yellow embraces Blue in the prison, and during the climb towards the final flowery fight, where they fly away holding each other while Yellow seeks admiration and love from Blue, and just seeing their embrace after they battle the Fun Gang. All adding to the beauty of their love and relationship, and adding to the normalcy that is that very thing. LGBTQ+ characters should be more normalized within video games in general, and Toby Fox shows us exactly how to write these queer characters within a narrative. And like I said, it's done so well that it should just become the standard at this point. Not saying that we shouldn't be celebrating LGBTQ+ characters within the media, or they don't become a caricature of themselves once being outed as a gay character within the world. It's not their drive and motive, but it's just a part of them. And it's so refreshing, and Toby really should be rewarded for this. And that's really all the major political themes I could really draw reasonably within this chapter. Like I said, there's some other smaller things, but I think they're better addressed in other chapters. So if you want to see me do this video for the other chapters of Deltarune, let me know in the comments down below. And as always, thank you so much for watching.